In this lesson, we're going to talk about Mr. Paul Klee. He was a Swiss-born artist, and his highly individualist style was based on color theory, and he also was a part of the Expressionism and Cubism and Surrealism movements of the early 1900s to the middle 1900s. He was born in 1879 and lived until 1940. His best friend was Wassily Kandinsky, and he focused on music, color theory, and childlike perspective on the environment that surrounded him. So today, there is a book, a children's book, called The Cat and the Bird, and it is based on or inspired by Mr. Paul Klee. So I'm going to read our story today, and we are going to think about possibly maybe some castles or perhaps a cityscape in which a cat or a bird might inhabit. I chose two birds. And while I read, just think about the colors that you see in the bird and the cat that are the main characters of the story. I had everything I needed to be happy. In my house with the blue shutters, I had a cozy basket, warm milk, toys, grass to nibble on, and a shiny tag on my collar with my name engraved on it. See the kitty? And the collar. And those blue shutters and those colors that are so vibrant. I also see a bunch of shapes. But my perfect house was gilded cage. It was a gilded cage. It was locked up tight. The key turned around twice. So the kitty lived inside a house and could not get out, and he thought of it as a cage. So from morning to evening and from evening to morning, I sat by the window and dreamed. The garden outside was so wonderfully beautiful. When I closed my eyes tight, I could sense the scent of chestnuts, the red leaves of autumn, the soft carpet of moss beneath my paws, the murmuring of the stream, and high up in the treetop, you. How beautifully you sang, how deliciously beautiful. So he's talking about a bird that he watches out his window. I like all the oranges and the warm colors. And then we go to cool colors. For ages, I would listen to you and lick my lips. I have to admit, I wanted to catch you very much. One stroke of my claws and snap of the teeth and crack. I felt I could already taste you in my mouth completely forever. You know how kitties might play with birds. But sometimes inside me was even a stronger than the urge to devour you. Deep inside, I envied you. You were free to fly wherever you wanted, to come and go as you pleased. You were free, and I was captive. Captive meaning he was in a cage, that he was kept in a house. So I devoured you only with my eyes, and then I called out to you. Hello, bird, your beak is so sharp you can bore holes in the tree trunks. Why don't you peck at the bars of my prison? You answered me with a song, a cat in a cage, what a funny sight. But would I be wise to help you? How can I be sure that you won't eat me up? I looked at you straight in the eyes and said, I give you my word, plain and simple, and I promise is a promise. This was enough for you. Peck, peck. Without a moment's hesitation, you began to peck away at the bars of my cage. I see a bold black triangle and a very yellow-white rectangle. And soon I was free, scampering after you on the roof of my house with blue shutters. Bounding from the tower to the bridge, and from the bridge to the chimney, I sprang on the edge of the horizon, and there I danced for joy in the moonlight. It's much like the cityscape or the castle. I like both of those ideas of combining the shapes into buildings and places and just using your imagination for those living spaces. Thank you, little bird. I will never forget you. Your image will always be engraved in my memory, completely, forever. So the cat, and this is a big painting, painted by Paul Klee. He did use geometric shapes for the most part to line out his cat. But we are going to use that inspiration. I don't have a picture of it in color, but he did create paintings like this one with a lot of different shapes. So in our lesson, you'll need a ruler, some crayons, some pencils, some watercolor, and we are going to sketch out a drawing much like this. Now I started to save some time on this one, and I'm going to explain what I would like first. So I just took my ruler and created some taller lines, some shorter lines, some lines that divided it. I also used my ruler to create the shapes at the top, to create the roofs, so you get a lot of ruler practice. And you can also use shapes to trace if you prefer. Let's put a sun, or could be a moon at the top with this circle. The circles in my other drawing that I'll use to show watercolor, I drew freehand. So you can use a template, or you can draw it free if you like. I think I also have some other shapes that could be used to trace around and create shapes inside of shapes. Basically, you want to get a bunch of squares. So we're going to go with our lines that way. They don't have to be perfect squares. They can be rectangles. Just breaking up the space in order to create new spaces. I noticed there were some arches in some of those, so maybe I would like to create an arch, and that's just a half circle. And then you see my lines are not perfect, but and we're using pencil first and drawing lightly, so we can erase them if we don't like what it looks like. I kind of think that's quite okay. But use pencil and draw lightly. You can always make things better if you need to, or you can leave them if they look okay. And to make my triangles, I'm just going to go from corner to corner, breaking up that space with shapes until we have the whole thing filled with different geometric shapes. I actually really enjoyed doing this. I enjoyed drawing it. I enjoyed coloring it, because there's a lot of different things you can accomplish. So I took the time earlier from this drawing to create this drawing, and I added my little characters, my birds, and I see as I drew this big circle, I actually drew that circle. And I left some open spaces. I want you to color with the colored pencils and crayons. And that waxiness of the crayon is actually going to resist the colored pencil or the watercolor that we're going to paint with. Now, because it's watercolor, I'm going to have to paint on a flat surface, and I will be able to hold it up because a little bit later, because it will be a little bit dry, but I do not have the capability to show you what I'm doing right now. So I'm taking some clean water, And I'm just wetting one square. And I'll hold it up. Maybe I can make it shine. It's this one right here. Kind of shiny. So it's just clean water. Don't see any color yet. I'm gonna let that soak in. I don't want too much water. And then I'm going to wet, I think I'm gonna choose green. I'm gonna use this green right here. I'm gonna get that wet. I need to get it wet to loosen up that color. And maybe you can see, I have some green on there. I'm going to take that green and put it on that square. And as I do that, that square is going to bleed with that green. The water is going to take it everywhere. So again, I'm going to put it down on the table so it doesn't go all over my painting. What I really want to show you is the sky, because I don't want my sky to stay white. And the reason I want you to use some watercolor combined with some colored pencil is because it gives you the variety of materials. This is my watercolor square and it looks different from my crayon square. This is a colored pencil square. So having that variety actually creates a lot of interest. So I am going to do the top half of my painting so I can show you. That is the last thing I really want to show you. So I am actually going to get the whole top half wet because I want that to have a very light color of, I'm thinking I want this to be night. So I'm going to use a purple and some blue combined. And I don't need to worry so much about where I colored with color because that is going to resist the watercolor paint. And I'm going to show you that I painted with the water. Now this tiny little circle at the top I colored with white crayon so that the paint wouldn't go in there. I colored that little circle with white crayon. So you can see it's shiny at the top. I didn't get all those other white places wet. So I'm going to get my color of blue and purple wet and ready. Getting those ready and loose with water will let that smoothly go across the top. So I'm going to start at the top with purple. And I will show you that soon. And then I'm going to add the blue. And I'm going to mix those two together. So there's the beginning of my watercolor, and I saw it drip right away. So I'm going to put it down, smooth that out, and I will show you what I come up with. I just really appreciate what it looks like when you combine different materials together. And that is really the goal of this project. I like seeing the variety, how they interact together. And the change is subtle, meaning it's not really obvious, but that's what I like about it. And I also like the variety of shapes. You can use any geometric shapes. It's the point of the whole thing is to try and make some sort of buildings or collection of buildings, or even, a kingdom, like we talk about castles. It's really where your imagination is going to take you. Right now I want to get my sky in so you can see it. And I'm almost there. Just have a little bit of dark going on, which is okay. I kind of like it. Kind of looks like clouds because of the variety of the blue and the purple. All right, I think we're good. I think I can hold it up. I don't want to hold it up too long. So now, isn't that pretty nifty? I am going to take some extra time to fill in some of these white squares that I have left free. There are a couple that I colored white with my white crayon because I thought that would be a neat kind of look to have a few of them white still. But there you are. I hope you enjoy making your shapes. I hope you enjoy coloring your shapes, and I hope you enjoy mixing that with the watercolor.